Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our channel. If you don't know who we are Millennial and Mom. I'm Mom. Millennial is here, but she's battling allergies right now, so she won't be on this live or pre-recorded, but you may hear her coughing in the background. Just disregard that. And another thing you may notice, yes, my hair. My hair is actually not cut. It is growing back, and I am proud to show it. Now, some of you who've been with us for a long time know what's going on. For those of you who don't know what's going on, I'm battling a health disease as well, not like Jada Pinkett, but a different disease where my hair fell out due to my treatments, but now it's growing back. So here I am, showing it for all to see, and I'm very proud of it. So here we go. Welcome to Married at First Sight, Season 14, Episode 12, Settling In or Just Settling. All right, so this episode begins with Katina meeting with Jasmine and Michael. And she talks to them about, what happened with her and Olajuwon. And I felt it was very different with her talking to Michael and Jasmine, because I'm like, who and when did they become the it couple, to give counseling? Because to tell the truth, they don't have the best communication either, at least not up until this point. So I really thought that was interesting. But at the same time, I do think that Katina and Jasmina have a little bit of a friendship connection. So maybe that's why she felt comfortable going over there to talk. So while they were talking, it came up why O was so upset. And she said, I had these dating apps on my phone still, and O found it. And she's like, there was nothing there. It was just a log on. So what Katina is saying, on her apps that she still had, her dating apps, she wasn't even logged in anymore, which is they were just so old sitting there that she just had her log on. And that's all that O needed to see, because he just went off the deep end, talk about, if you're married, you don't need this, you don't need that. And you know what, again, I understood his message, but it's always about how you get your message across. And as the weeks have gone by, honestly, Olajuwon, his messages haven't exactly gone across the way that he wanted them to become, because, he just has always, to me, been over the top. Is it just me, y'all? I don't think so, because I really think he needs to work on that. On top of that, is O an only child like Mark? Because he's giving me only child syndrome, where things have to be his way all the time. Well, while she was talking to Michael and Jasmina, Michael asked a question if her and Olajuwon resolved the situation. And she was like, no. He got up and walked away and explained that, he wasn't willing to talk. But Michael told Katina, you know what? Maybe, or O's point is, when, this is Michael speaking for O, when people's emotions are running high, maybe he needs a time away to think about what he's doing and what's he saying and stuff like that. And she understood that, but at the same time, I'm thinking, does he really have to go that far every single time? And Jasmina, in her confession, was saying, if it was her, pretty much, she didn't understand why he even took it that far, because, if she wasn't logged in, she could, if she wasn't logged in and physically or doing what she was doing on dating apps, she could understand it. But since she wasn't, like, what was the issue? But the issue was, I guess it came down to a trust issue, pretty much, because then after she leaves, we see O meet up with Michael. And O is saying that, regardless of what's happening, he doesn't see how he can trust her anymore, because she's married now. Like, why would you have all that on there? Your social media, if you're talking to other people, and dating apps, because, when he came on here, he deleted all his stuff. But you know what? I believe on other Married at First Sight shows, this has happened before. Like, maybe there was dating apps where people were actually dating, like last season. And I don't know if this one actually comes across that way, but I could see why he may draw that conclusion. But Olajuwon went on to say that, Katina's a smart girl, and regardless of what he thinks or what she's doing, he would never put his heart out for someone or go through this process if he wasn't in it. So I think he was trying to say that, he may not trust her right now, but he's willing to work on it. That's what I got from that. Now, we move on to a quick scene the next morning with Michael. Why is Michael eating a dog biscuit? One of Mr. Feeney's dog biscuits. He's like, what's good for Mr. Feeney is good for me. Really, Michael, it's come down to that? what's good for Mr. Feeney is good for you. Is that how you're going to win Jasmina's heart? Because I personally think that's a little much because now even Jasmine is like, well, what you doing? Michael's like, hey, it's all good. I'm like, oh, okay. Now, moving on to Mark and Lindsay. Mark is updating a whiteboard. Actually, he's writing out a whiteboard. Now, we saw this too in previous episodes with Married at First Sight last season with the whiteboard debacle. If you watch, if you know, you know. Okay, so he's writing down things that they can do together, like split tasks, like chores and cooking and things like that. Now, while he's putting out all the stuff on this whiteboard, here comes Lindsay. She comes in with a new litter box. She comes in with like candy or something like that. And Mark is looking at her like, what, girl? You bringing stuff in here like pretty much why you spending stuff? We're on a limited budget, okay? So that is one of the things that they're arguing about. Not just the communication. They're on a limited budget because Mark is not working no more. Because remember, his job said that, until you're done with all this, like, we don't need you back. I thought that was a cold piece, but hey, I guess they don't want the drama. And who knows? Maybe Mark already had drama previously and they just don't want any escalation of anything else. Or who's to say that Lindsay hasn't come up there and caused any additional ruckus outside the job? And who knows? They just don't want the exposure. So anyways, on this whiteboard, Mark explains to Lindsay that, he wants to split the chores, he wants to split the cooking and things like that. And Lindsay's like, okay, cool. I could go along with that. I could compromise, things like that. And she's like, so what about meal prepping? Because I really don't want to have to think about cooking meals when I come home. And Mark was like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever, and Mark, I don't know. Sometimes when it comes to things, I know he wants to compromise and Lindsay wants to compromise, but at the same time, I just think they're on two separate pages. Even when you write stuff down, they're writing stuff down, they're looking at it like, I don't know. Honestly, I do not know how this is going to work for them. Now let's move on to Steve and Noi. Okay, so they call it a family outing. Okay, so it's Steve, Noi, and Sushi. And apparently it's Sushi's day to go to the doggy wash or whatever it's called, the doggy spa. And the funny thing with that point of the episode was when Sushi walked in there, Sushi kindly walked himself to the door like, I'm not trying to do this. Sushi was scared for some reason. I'm thinking, now, Noi, as much as you love your dog and you talk about your dog being your son, he's never had a bath somewhere? Like, you've never taken him for any treatments or spas or whatever? Because he seemed like he's spoiled. I would have thought that he would be used to that type of treatment, I guess. But you know what? Once they get Sushi in the back, they had to like put a leash on him, get him back there because Sushi was whining. Steve ended up giving the dog a bath. I was like, okay, Steve, there you go. You're trying to show Noi that, you are in this for her too, not just for you, because clearly Noi doesn't see things other than why don't you have a job, which to me is a huge downfall. And here goes Noi. She's like, yeah, I'm glad Sushi finally has a dad. Now, if you're a pet owner, that's cool, because one day I might be too, but your dad, really? I mean, all right, Noi. So now let's move to Steve and Lindsay. They're at the outdoor market and they're picking up groceries. Now, I think they have a budget of like $150. And as they're walking through, Lindsay's like, oh, you want to try a sugar watermelon? Or Mark's like, no. You want to try squash? You want to try lemons? You want to try limes? No. Everything is no, no, no. But when Lindsay gets to the part of, do you want bacon? He's like, oh, yeah. So his ears perk up with that. So Mark doesn't eat any fruits or vegetables or nothing like that. Mark, so you've been living off of protein this whole time? Once again, we have seen this before in other people that have been on Married at First Sight. Well, while they're shopping, it turns out that Mark is like, well, we're going over budget. I'm thinking, going over budget on what? Like, if you're not buying fruits and vegetables, like, are you just buying bacon and protein and maybe something for the cats? I didn't understand where the going over budget was, honestly. And Lindsay's like, you know what? She's married a man that all he wants is goldfish and chicken fingers. I said, So he's eating a big kids meal all day. I can't with Mark. He needs to be a little bit more open to his eating choices. So moving on to Michael and Jasmina. They're at home and they're making dinner. Well, actually, it turns out that are they making dinner? Did I jump the gun? That's not true. They are at home, but it turns out that not only are they eating dinner, but they're eating dinner and talking about Jasmina's driving habits. Okay. I'm surprised that Jasmina doesn't necessarily drive. Does she get an Ubers or take a taxi or a trolley? Because Michael's like, you know what? She needs to learn how to drive because I'm going to be the one responsible for everything if the stuff don't work out. Well, he comes up with different questions to ask Jasmina. I guess it's in the driver book, whatever. I mean, when's the last time most of us have looked in a driver book, to be honest, right? But she's answered the questions like she knows the rules of the road, but somehow or for some reason she doesn't want to drive, or maybe her trauma, she says she's been in past car accidents, so that's prohibiting her from driving. And you know what, as far as Michael goes with this, see, Michael to me is trying to step up little by little, and he's even saying that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to put in his words 110% for Jasmina. I mean, eating that dog biscuit just wasn't it for me, but whatever. But with him taking a step to also remind her of the rules of the road or getting her to get her driver's permit, stuff like that, that's doing a lot for her. Now, I don't really see really what she's doing for him, really. Maybe just trying to listen more, not be as much school teacher-ish, I guess. But whatever works for them. Okay. So moving on, we have Katina and Olajuwon. We see them in a quick confessional. They talk about they came together last night. They cooled off. They talked about things. And she realized where he was coming from. He apologized. She apologized. And they're moving forward. And they said no marriage is perfect, but they're going to move forward and make this work. And I thought that was nice. So they must have really had a heart-to-heart when they got together. I'm sure it was a little something going on in the air, but whatever it is, worked out for them for now. Now, moving on to Lindsay and, no, not Lindsay and Mark. Moving on to Steve and Mark. Okay, they're hanging out on the beach and they talk about marriage. That's all they can talk about is marriage, right? Like what's going on. And Steve asks, how's it going, Mark, working from home? And Mark's like, you know what? I don't work from home. I'm not really working at all. Now, see, I thought in the beginning, he said that the job said take some time off. Like, I didn't realize he meant take time off. Like, don't come back at all until you had all this together. But clearly that's what's going on. And Steve was like, oh, okay. Yeah, right. Okay. So then Steve gets into what's going on with him and Noy, okay? And he's saying that he's frustrated with Noy because all Noy can think about is the 9 to 5. And Steve says he's saved up money, he's got savings, and he could go to work, but right now he's contributing 3 times more to the relationship than Noy is. He cooks, he cleans, you know, he's with sushi, does all this other stuff. And he's frustrated because maybe that Noy doesn't realize the contributions that he's putting in. And even Mark was like, yeah, like, you know, she doesn't realize that I'll be upset for you. He's like, because Steve says, really, if I get a job and do 9 to 5, like, what if she pulls back? You know, he said, I don't think she has a perception problem, but she have a perspective problem. And I was like, I get that. And I think really that was a good way to put it. She has a perception problem, and I agree. But at the same time, I believe that, or in my opinion, you know, even though he's got savings and we've all figured this out, because really how else does he survive and take those trips and whatever, maybe he needs to bring Noy in on what he has saved, you know, what he's got set aside, maybe 401k, if he's comfortable with that. Because clearly there's something that's holding him back with showing Noy, like, you know, I have this much in the bank, and maybe that would make her comfortable. But at the same time, I'm thinking, I really don't think Noy would be comfortable just knowing that he's got stuff in the bank without having a job, because her thing is so focused on 9 to 5, work, that I don't think she could see past that. And Steve is starting to realize that too. All right. So today is the day that Michael is teaching Jasmina how to drive. And I just thought that was so funny how Michael was holding on in the car. And if y'all have ever taught anybody how to drive or ever been in a car with someone learning how to drive, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, like there's a fear for that with like, oh Lord, like, please watch out for us, right? And, she's in the car, Michael's in the car, and the dog is in the car. I'm like, the dog is in the car too. But Jasmine is like, yeah, I got everyone in my hands. I got to protect everybody. I'm like, okay, yeah. But you know what? She was doing pretty good. But when she said, which one is the gas? Now that gave me feedback to Cassandra, because when I was teaching her to drive all those years ago, and she asked me which one was the brake, she had to stop the car. She stopped the car, and that was the end of the driving. And from there forward, we had a driving school teach her how to drive, because it was just over for me. It was a wrap. I couldn't do it. So I understood Michael and the stress he went through. But overall, Jasmina did pretty good, and she realized and recognized that Michael is, looking out for her, and things are going better. And, what she feels with Michael, she feels like they're getting closer. And for now, because they have a history of maybe not connecting and being slightly boring, in my opinion, I guess that's connection. I mean, hey, they got to start somewhere. And right now they're doing baby steps. So I guess that's a good thing, right? We'll see. Now let's move on to Steve and Noy. They're back at the house, and in Steve's confessional, he says he needs to be appreciated for stepping up with the responsibilities with the dog. See, that dog Sushi keeps coming up a whole lot. So maybe Noy puts Sushi above Steve and anything else that goes on. He says he feels uncertain about the duties around there, and he wants to know how she feels about what's going on if they split the chores, like he was talking with Mark, like the cooking, the cleaning, picking up after Sushi, stuff like that. And Ninoy's like, well, the bathroom needs to be clean. He's like, what? The bathroom needs to clean? That's all you got? She's like, well, pretty much, Steve, you're not working. So if we split things, like, where would that leave me? She goes, are you serious? She's like, why would we split things if I work 9 to 5? She's like, well, what are you doing? Steve was just too through with that. He was like, well, then you could take up, your own cooking, your own cleaning, like pretty much do for you. And Noy's like, you know what, you can kiss my ass. He was like, whoa, let's come to that. And you know what, really, that's been building up, because ever since Noodlegate, even before, there's been other things going on with that relationship. Even though to me, they were always the front runners, it seemed like. I know I never said that before, but just by the show's history of how it started till now with all the couples on this season, they are the standout couple who look like they're getting along, so that would make them the front runners. There's always been something underneath the surface, and I have to say, in my opinion only, it's kind of coming from Noy. Not kind of, in my opinion, it is coming from Noy. Even before Noodlegate, I mean, she's so stuck on that job, 9 to 5, that there was always something underlying with her. And you know what? I'll get back to that when we come back to them in a few moments. Now, all the couples meet up or speak with their friends and family individually. The first person up is Olajuwon, and he talks with his former coach, and he tells the coach about the ups and downs of the relationship, and they even talked about the dating app, because that was really the whole thing, what was going on in their relationship. And the coach says, everyone gets passionate about things, but you have to learn to talk it out. And that's true. Everyone does get passionate about things that they feel that they're right on. And everyone gets mad, and being mad is an emotion, but you have to learn how to control that emotion, being mad, because mad can take you places you really don't want to go. Because, sometimes, like someone else, family member said, once things are said, you can't take them back. You just cannot take them back. But you know what? Olajuwon, he was like, well, I'm a straightforward person. I've always been that way. And so, but still, you could be straightforward, but you have to learn how to use the right words in the right situation. Learn what to say at the right times. That comes with the maturity, because, when you pumped up, and it seems like Olajuwon, you pumped up more often than you're not, those words can take you places where it's a point of no return, just in my opinion. Now, we see Michael talk with his sister, Claire, and he says he goes to Claire for advice most of the time of all his sisters, because she tends to give the best advice. And he says, so what do you think? Because you haven't seen us since, we got back, or the month anniversary. And his sister said, well, I noticed you guys were doing some light touching and things like that when we were there. So I was happy to see that. And Michael went on to say that the issue in their relationship is a trust thing, a communication thing. And that, he has opened up about things that he's never opened up before with his mother and his grandmother. And he said, he also feels that he hasn't been giving 110%, but now he is. And he has said he also feels that, since he's opened up, he wants to know and feel that Jasmina has opened up too. And he doesn't want any communication issues they had before to come back, because, it would be hard for him to say yes on decision day if, they both can't get to a point of opening up and trusting and being there for each other. And I thought that was a good revelation to have. At least Michael knows that he's trying and taking baby steps. And you can see that he's trying. You can see actually that Michael has opened up a lot more from the very beginning, because he was so closed off based off of probably his past, whatever PTSD he had. And then just to have Jasmina, what we see on camera, always saying like, you're use your words, or you're being mean, or you're being aggressive. So that could shut somebody down too. So I get what he's saying. But his sister said to Michael, you know what? You need to take baby steps. And I agree with that. Everything, take baby steps. Start small, acknowledge the small, celebrate the small, and go from there. So now Jasmina talks with her mother, and she says that her and Michael are now in a good place, and there's not a whole lot of tension. I was really surprised that she said that, because, Jasmina is up and down too, right? One part of the episodes previously you see her, rolling her eyes, the other part just like not saying nothing. But I'm really surprised that she admitted that, at least on camera. So her mom asked her, so what are the pros and cons? And she said the pros are the communication's better, going forward. And, they're learning to talk to each other and stuff like that. And the cons are, after months, she has no feelings for him, right? Not even right now, she has no feelings for him. And she says, her heart is open, but right now it's closed to feeling the things that she thinks she should be feeling. And she says if there's no romance by decision day, it would be hard for her to say yes on decision day. And I'm just like, I hope that she can take baby steps too, from the driving lessons to the month anniversary with the cooking and the just the things that she's seen Michael open up with. Maybe she could open up a little bit herself too, because I still think she is a lot closed off too. I think her and Michael are the same when it comes to that, just closed off together. They have to build together. You know what? Counseling would definitely benefit them, all the couples, but definitely them for sure. All right. So now there's a quick scene with Lindsay, and she says her and Mark are on the outs. What's new, Lindsay? I mean, this is every episode. What's new? It is so up and down with them. It is so up and down. Well, apparently there's a living room cam, and in the evening time, they're arguing over something. It was about $250. I don't know if he ruined something or if he dropped something. I didn't catch it, but there was an argument. And Mark apologized. She's like, you know what, Mark, you never follow through with anything. You did this whiteboard, and, he's just clueless, and he's arguing all the time, and he's not romantic. I mean, just every episode, it is so old, Lindsay. It's so old. To me, if you're going to walk away and you want to walk away, just walk away. Just do it. Because it's old to me now. I'm over it. Matter of fact, I'm over Lindsay. Now, moving on to Katina. Katina meets with her friend Autumn, who wasn't able to make it to the wedding, but, I think she was there for the month anniversary. So again, the dating app thing comes up with the friend conversation, and they go from there. And the friend was like, well, again, if you weren't doing anything, there's really nothing for you to worry about. But Katina talks about how she felt with Olajuwon talking to her in a certain way, and that she's a real person, and just like she's telling Michael and Jasmine, with feeling stuff like that. And I just think that, to boil this all down, that Katina has a lot of PTSD too from previous relationship, maybe where she wasn't treated the best, and she gets triggered real easy by Olajuwon because maybe that's, how it happened previously. But she went on to tell her friend that, even though they're not romantic, they've been lovey-dovey, hugging, kissing, stuff like that. And that they both talked through everything and they're committed to the process. She said she wouldn't even be here if she wasn't committed. And O has said the same thing before too. So we'll just have to see, because that relationship is really rocky. So we'll have to see. You just never know with those two either. All right. So there's a quick scene with Steve and Noi. Again, living room cam was at its finest in this episode. All right. Noi says that she doesn't feel comfortable moving in with Steve during this after decision day if they stay together. She's like, well, what's the rush? And Steve was like, well, because we're married. He's like, what's the difference now? And he asked for her to explain, and she just says she's not comfortable moving in, and she's just not sure if this is what she wants to do. And bottom line it, again, Steve needs to show her something, maybe on paper, about how he's able to provide for himself and for them if they stay together. Because for her to say all this is just, every week, every episode, this is all she can say. And she's just not comfortable knowing that, if he's at home, like, what can he provide if she's just the only one working 9 to 5? So I don't know. They have to get that together too. And it's getting hard to watch every week, these couples with the same issues, and no one seems to be stepping forward right now 100% really when it comes to communication, except maybe Michael's giving a little bit more effort of everybody to me right now. All right. So now Mark meets with his friend Erica, and he tells her it's been a lot. I mean, when has it not been a lot? I mean, from the wedding day going forward, it's been a lot with Lindsay. Every week there's something with Mark and Lindsay or Lindsay. Okay. So the friend tells Mark after he bottom lines of her, like, every week is something new, this and that. And it is. It's something new every week. And it boils down to communication. He says that Lindsay has a hard exterior, but, she's soft on the inside. And she also, Lindsay, has things that come up from her childhood, because when she feels like he's yelling, she's like, that reminds that reminds her of being yelled at when she was a kid. I mean, he can't help that. This is married at first sight. You married a stranger, so you don't know what you're going to get. And pretty much that's what Erica said. She's like, you married a stranger, and you both have to communicate and not hold any grudges. And Mark says, again, it's hard to see if this is what he wants. And honestly, Mark, it's hard for me to see this for you too. Now, Noi is meeting with Sriracha, or Michael, but now he's Sriracha. And she says things are mostly good. And she said that with Steve, they laugh, they play, they have fun, and he's thoughtful, okay? And she said, she loves me. She loves me. He loves me. My bad, excuse me. And Sriracha's like, oh, he loves you, like, after a month? And Noi says, yeah, in a married at first sight time, it's a year or years to say love you. And Sriracha's like, because even I was like, because what was it, like 3 days, and she was saying it to him, or even 2? It's like, okay, whatever. So Noi goes into issues of, like, Steve wants her to pick up the cooking and the cleaning and, picking up after sushi. And she's like, why should I? Now, to me, Noi is being all, like, boisterous and loud, not loud, but just speaking her mind, like something she's not really doing with Steve, like her tone. See, that's where the tone comes in. He wants me to do this and that and this and that, and I'm not doing that. And I'm like, how come you're not saying this with Steve? But hey, I guess she feels more comfortable with Sriracha. And you know what? I honestly don't think that this was the best person for Noi to have this conversation with, because Sriracha co-signed everything Noi was saying. I mean, that's the sister, right? So you co-sign. She's like, Steve needs to do X, Y, Z, just what Noi was saying. But I don't know. It just didn't come across with, like, maybe Noi needed to talk to maybe her mom or so, like a neutral party or somebody, and not Sriracha, because that didn't work out for me. But all right, let's move on. Steve talked with his sister-in-law and talks about how they celebrate the 1-month anniversary, and brings up the situation with the cooking and cleaning again. And Steve goes on to tell his sister-in-law that he said he didn't want Noy to be on any social media because he did that. She did that before, remember when she first left and, put that whatever she said on social media. But this time, Steve said there was another post. And the post said, what does it say? Social media. If you find better, if you deserve better, you probably, if you find you deserve better, you probably do. And Steve asked her, what do you think is about me? Noy said no. Well, he asked the sister-in-law, well, what do you think? Would you think it was about me too? And she said no, she don't think so. It sounds like it was a communication issue. And maybe that if you need to give Noy her space, she wouldn't necessarily feel like pretty much saying these things are like pushing her away. And honestly, I have to disagree with that. Like if Noy's putting these things on social media, these different quotes, these affirmation quotes about yourself internally, it is about her and her relationship, in my opinion, because why would you keep doing that? If he specifically asked you not to put things on social media and you agreed the first time not to do that and you turn around and did it again, nah, that's on you this time, Noy. And I think the sister-in-law, she gave a little bit of good advice about maybe giving her space, but the rest, no. Once again, no. So I think Steve should have maybe, I understand why he asked his sister-in-law for a woman's perspective, but no, his brother gave better advice than his sister-in-law. Just me. All right. So Michael and Jasmina are back at the apartment, and Michael's actually cooking for Jasmina because she's never cooked before. That's not true. He's never cooked for her before. And I thought it was a cute situation. And, again, they're starting to build their relationship, build their bond. And it was a cute scene. After the food came out of the oven and stuff like that, she tasted it. She's like, did a little dance. It's good, but it's salty. It's good, but it's salty. I thought that was cute. They had a nice little connection. And then we have Olajuwon and Katina. She introduced him to taco night. He said he never had taco night, which I'm surprised. Like, okay, whatever. And I thought that was cute that they had a nice little night with little candles and tried to connect that way too. So they are trying to get along a little bit. And then we see Lindsay and Mark. Now, Lindsay has set up a photo shoot with the cats. They had cat suits on, I guess the Shark family. And okay, Mark came home and, with that, things just went awry. They just went left. They always seem to go left for whatever reason. They both, I don't know, they're really not on the same page. I guess they're trying, but they're trying in different ways, and it's not clicking, it's not connecting. Well, Lindsay walks out, and Mark has to talk her back in, and the photographer steps out. They have a conversation about, if you want to do this, we can really do it. And Lindsay's like, do you really want me to? Well, after all of that, they turn out to do the photo shoot. After all the, I'm not doing it, I'm leaving, I'm done, this and that. Same thing week to week. So pretty much that was the end of the episode. Now, next week, we see Pastor Cal and Dr. Pepper visit and talk to couples individually. And I have been waiting for this all season. I think they need to do this more than one time on the show, but that's just me. So anyways, well, thank you all again for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Millennial will be back next week. And you know what? Leave your comments below. I'll be happy to hear what you have to say. Thank you all again for watching. And as always, live simply, be grateful.